You know, I need to stop being so trusting of people. I've listened to multiple people telling me that Vanquish was going to be a good game. It is the apex of Platinum Games' roster of games, besides Nier Automata, of course. Now, me and Platinum, we don't get along, and mostly because Platinum does not have a good track record. The only games I haven't played by them, I think, are one of their Transformers games and that Legend of Korra game that nobody knows they made. And that's about it. I'm pretty much highly aware of all of their other breakout games. I've played both Bayonettas. I've played some Nier Automata. I got through Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. And as stupid as the name as Revengeance is, it was solid gameplay. Story was, of course, weird. And it wasn't as good mechanically as the early trailers made it look, but it was good enough to pass, and the action was over the top. Bayonetta 1, not a good game. Period. It's just not a good game. Bayonetta 2 is a good game. It improves on literally everything that Bayonetta 1 was short on. It makes it good. It's a good game. Not a great game, but a good game. Nier Automata, haven't finished. I only got to play a little bit of it myself. Got to see quite a bit of it from ZoinkMeister Patrick. But other than that, I don't really trust Platinum, since they only specialize in flashy gameplay, and then after that the story is just awful. So when I got some recommendation saying that Vanquish was their apex of gameplay, I was like, you know what? Maybe this is a time to trust Platinum Games for once and give them a fair shot. I was wrong. So the gameplay of Vanquish is just pretty much outstanding. It's fast, it's wispy, it controls effortlessly on mouse. I have no quarrels about the gameplay at all, except for the fact that it stops being flashy after about 2 missions in. You're constantly having to deal with this nuclear reactor thing strapped to your back with some duct tape that, even though it's the zenith of human technology, it shorts out after about 10 seconds of usage, and then you're forced to mildly jog your way through the battlefield. When that thing is out of commission, you're pretty much useless. The guns are pretty cool for the most part. They're all pretty much five guns that are just in different variations that make it sound like there's more than 5, but there's pretty much just 5. You reload way too oftenly for how quick the game is. It's not as noticeable at first, but once you start to get into enemies with more spongy, large health bars, you're going to realize, like, oh my god, I've had to reload like 10 times in the past 10 seconds, and you're going to be like, well, this isn't that good. But once you get the hang of gameplay, it is pretty snappy. And I say snappy in terms of, using the sniper rifle was my favorite weapon. I just wish it had more than 15 shots before it was completely useless and you had to throw it away for something else. But there are some interesting combinations you can do here. You can do some fun stuff like throw a grenade up in the air and then slow motion reverse back and shoot it in midair to blow up all the enemies. You can do a melee attack and then go into like a slow motion jump over and shoot them. All kinds of fun stuff, and you could dart around the map, but only for, again, like 6 seconds before you're out of juice and you're forced to just mildly tiptoe your way through the battlefield. And these bullets are going everywhere all the time, 24/7. So you'd think you'd have more, and at no point do you get any improvement to the system, except for like the last boss. You get it, your bar of recharge for your generator on your back is doubled, and that's about it. There is no New Game Plus, so you can't keep that. There's no keeping your weapons is completely useless because you find new generic weapons all over the battlefield. And the story is just absolutely awful. It starts off pretty generic. Russia has blown up San Francisco, and now it's up to you to use your big American party muscles and cigarettes you're constantly lighting to save the day. Now, I'm fine with generically neutral storylines. You don't have to be, intensely great to be great. You can just be all right. A story can just be all right, and as long as the gameplay is good, that elevates the gameplay because you don't have to worry about the story. But about 75% through the way, it just gets awful. I'm talking awful. Things stop making sense. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil the ending, so I'm gonna give about we'll say 5 seconds before you get these spoilers dropped on you. Okay, so it ends with this guy who's been your friend, ally. I don't know. He's kind of a jerk, but he's always on your side until the very end. He betrays you and says that he wants to, instead of stopping the giant laser in the sky that destroyed San Francisco from destroying anything else, he wants to target it at Moscow. You find out the president, who is actually Hillary Clinton, is behind the whole thing, and she wants to destroy Moscow, and she meant to destroy Moscow the whole time, but told the Russians, hey, I'm going to destroy Moscow, so go ahead and get ready, because I'm going to destroy Moscow, and we'll use the war economy to become rich. But they instead hijacked the laser and used their plan against her to destroy San Francisco, and that's the whole plight of the entire story, and not to mention the entire laser and like area you battle on is completely ripped off of Halo, 100% completely ripped off of Halo, same exact thing. He, after you kill him, he's like, you know what, you're right, I've done wrong, here, go save the day, I'll kill my own men instead of order them to stand down because they directly follow me. And then he kills some of his men, and when they finally corner him in a corner and say, hey, you've been killing us, he's like, huh, I have no regrets. And he pulls a nuke out of his arm and blows up everything. And then you run to the center of the laser, which somehow wasn't affected by a nuke going off like 100 feet away. You fight these two Russian guys, and then it turns out they're not real, they're just androids that look like the main bad guy, and they both have nukes in their chest, so you have to go to the escape pod, and like the bombs both say 5 minutes, but after 30 seconds of running, they're down to 30 seconds somehow. You make it to the escape pod. You're trying to escape, but then there's explosions left and right causing your escape pod to go haywire and launch into space and explode. Your love interest, who's in a ship not too far away, yells, Sam, as if you've died, and is clearly like, she zooms in on your escape pod and you're dead, and she's like, oh no, he's gone. And then behind her, guess again, baby, he's already there. And I don't understand, he teleported onto the ship, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And then he's like, everything's gonna be okay. And then like an explosion off in the distance tilts the ship in space, which that's not how space works. And she falls into his arms, and then he looks at her with that holding of that assurance security hold, and she's just like in love, and he's like, don't worry, baby, everything's gonna be okay. Even though they just lost a giant space laser, it's exploding, there's pieces of it falling to Earth, specifically the US, which they failed to defend since Russia has officially taken over the US. It cuts to Hillary Clinton, who's like, my presidency has failed since they found out about my secret plan. She blows her head off with a Desert Eagle, which, by the way, all the bad guys in this entire game have been robots up until this point. And then it just cuts away to the main bad guy, who escapes into space even though he was never on the giant Halo to begin with. I don't know where he's escaping from. And he docks onto another ship, and then instantly he pulls up a monitor, and there's like a shadow samurai lead, I don't know, the real Lord Farquaad from Shrek, behind a monitor silhouette that you don't even know who he is. And then he's like, Phase 1 is complete. We've taken over Earth. Now on to Phase 2. And then they fly into space. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They were trying to build up a sequel, I guess. I don't know, but even though Hillary Clinton was the one who devised the plan the whole time, and the Russians just hijacked the plan, it apparently was part of a much larger plan where there's some evil vampires in charge of the whole thing the whole time. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but the part that really bums me out the most is the president has shot herself in the head. Russia destroyed San Francisco. The U.S. failed in taking back the weapon from Russia. Russia has effectively taken U.S. in an unconditional surrender since the president's gone and the army has exploded on Halo. The main character, all of his efforts were completely futile. They've lost everything, and they still have the audacity to give it the guy gets the girl in the end ending. I was so upset, so flabbergasted at this lack of logic that I just can't sit there and just pretend like this didn't just happen. It's so bad. Anyone who defends the gameplay, that's perfectly fine, but anyone who's trying to say that the story is passable is completely, and I mean completely, misguided. There is no way that story cannot be bounced back from. It's eternally a stain on this game. The gameplay, which is great, only quells for about 50% of the game before you get bored, because it doesn't really improve ever. It stays the same. From the beginning of the game to the end, you pretty much have every power you'll ever have. So it doesn't get better. It never improves. It never upgrades. So about halfway through the game, when all these special effects stop being flashy, there's nothing really to keep the game going. There's nothing to really tell you, hey, it's gonna get better, I promise. No, because you've already gotten used to the gameplay, which was the only part that was good about the game, and then the rest is just terrible story after about 75% of the game. This game isn't great. It should have been good with how good the gameplay was, but because of that atrocious story, which totally like God drops you out of nowhere at 75% of the game, is so bad that it just brings the entire game down like a lot of notches. I wanted to give this game a good, but I'm afraid that the gameplay it just becomes tiresome after a while. As flashy it is, it's tiresome. It just brings down the entire game and can't make up for that gameplay. This game is getting an okay. It does have this nifty scene though.